Good evening, and welcome to Board of Selectmen meeting tonight, Monday, May 8th, 2017. I would like to start off by Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Knox, if you'd lead us in the pledge.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. If I could ask you to please remain standing. So, I'm going to recognize a fallen hero. Please be advised that the Massachusetts Governor, Charlie Baker, has ordered that the United States flag and the Commonwealth flag be lowered to half-staff at all state buildings from sunrise until sunset on the date of his internment, Thursday, May 4th, 2017, in honor of Staff Sergeant Michael J. Mantenuto, HHC, Headquarters Company, 1st Special Forces Group, Fort Lewis, Washington. Sergeant Mantenuto was from Holliston, Massachusetts. So I ask to take a moment of silence in memory of the Sergeant. Thank you. Staff Sergeant Mantenuto was an actor when he was right out of school, and he was best known for his portrayal of Jack O'Callahan in the movie Miracle. Miracle on Ice movie? Yeah, so a 35-year-old young man who was just buried on last Thursday, May 4th. So keep him and his family in our thoughts and prayers. All right. So tonight we have reorganization. We have a new board in front of you. So we're going to start off with the annual election of the chair, vice chair, and the clerk. Then we will get into mail. We'll read our mail. At 6:40, we will get into our scheduling. The Board of Selectmen is scheduling. And that's our meeting schedule, the fiscal year 2018 goal-setting process. Review that. 2C will be schedule review of Selectmen's policies and regulations. 2D, annual town board appointments process. At 7 p.m., item 3 will be public input, members' input, and Selectmen goals updates. I will ask that anybody that does want to be recognized by the chair. Please stand, state your name and address, and any comments should go through the chair. At 7:10, we'll have a joint meeting with the Planning Board and the Master Plan Update Steering Committee, and we'll establish and discuss the Master Plan Implementation Committee. 7:30, item 5, public hearing, which is Jake's Auto Body at 1 Adams Street, looking to get a Class II license to buy, sell, exchange, or assemble new and used motor vehicles at that address. 7:45, item 6, Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator. 6A is the annual special town meeting recap and follow-up. Special town meeting Article 5A, Littleton Common Sewer Strategy, Phase 2 and scope. 6B will be procurement facilities project updates. I think Assistant Town Administrator Ansaldi is going to lead us in that one with project updates of the Alumni Field renovation and building project, complete streets, Russell Street sidewalk, and the comprehensive needs assessment for the recreational fields. And anything else you feel like you want to update us on? At 8:15 will be item number 7, which is personnel, Director of Veteran Services reappointment. 7B, Deputy Police and Fire Chiefs annual contract extensions, both present tonight. 7C, Management Employee Contract Amendments for fiscal year 2018 classification and compensation plan schedule adjustments. Town Administrator, Director of Finance and Budget, Town Accountant, and Police Fire Chief lead us in that. At 8:30, we have other business, minutes approval. 8:35, we do have the need to go into executive session this evening to conduct strategy session and negotiations with non-union personnel, which is the police chief. So moving forward, I guess we have the matter of reading the mail. Mr. Bergman.
Organization first.
Yeah, let's do that. It's always calling me out. Just kind of getting Alexander Haig like there for a minute, wasn't I? All right, so for organization, as the chairman pro tem, I'll lead this conversation. First seat that we have to fill is the seat of the chairman. So I'll entertain any motions for chair.
I make a motion that you, Mr. DeCosta, be our chair for the year.
Who?
cost. Assuming that he meant Vice Chairman DeCoste, I will second that motion.
All right, there's been a motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, so entertain motions for a vice chairman.
I'll make a motion that Mr. Glavy be Vice Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Made and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. All right, we also need a clerk.
All's opposed, did you?
Oh, no. I was okay with that,
I heard a,
grudgingly.
I think I
I
coughed.
heard a sound.
It was a thank you, that's all it was.
Entertain a motion
Ow.
to nominate a clerk.
I'll nominate Mr. Knox as clerk.
Anybody for a second?
Second.
Moving second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, we are organized.
Now we'll do the mail.
No, wait, I want to say a few words. I got the mic now.
Too late now.
So first of all, I'd just like to thank my colleagues for nominating me and for choosing me to be the chair of this board. This seat is a seat that's been occupied by a number of dedicated Littleton residents who I have a great deal of respect for. Most recently, my two predecessors, two colleagues that I served with, Melissa Hebert and Jim Carr. I had the pleasure to serve with them and learn a lot from each of them. We're also fortunate to have two very experienced veteran members, each of which have held this seat, and Mr. Knox and Mr. Glavy, and I will lean on them for their wisdom. No old jokes, just wisdom. I look forward to working with our two newest members as well, Ms. Napoli and Mr. Gerbig, and hope that I can help you to acclimate to your new roles. And I do not take this responsibility lightly. I'll represent each of the residents of Littleton. I hope to do so with transparency, integrity, and focus, and always keeping the best interest of our town at the foremost. So thank you all, and let's get down to business. Mr. Bergman, you can take it now.
Thank you. Well, we'll come back and follow. Just a few items in the mail packet that we did receive approval from the Federal Emergency Management Administration of the Hazard Mitigation Plan, which was approved by the Selectmen on April 10th. It was submitted by Metropolitan Area Council, MAPC, to FEMA, and was approved effective April 13th. That plan is good for 5 years. So this is the second time during my tenure here that we've updated the plan, and both times we worked with MAPC. I want to thank the fire chief and the many staff members that worked on the plan. It means we are eligible for federal mitigation grant funding, and so that's the importance to us of keeping the plan up to date. And it's available online, and it will be linked to the meeting summary of tonight's meeting. Also, uploaded to the town's website is our annual report that the town has filed with U.S. EPA for our stormwater permit, the so-called MS4 permit that we're in the process of implementing. There's a requirement for an annual plan, and we have submitted that to the federal government and to the Mass DEP as well. So that filing is available online. Other materials in the packet I included, we got several comments regarding town meeting with suggestions of further things that we might want to do to make it run more smoothly. There were a few things that, a few changes that were made at this town meeting. One of the ones was the so-called call of the articles, which I actually thought went pretty well as an experiment. That we had, of the 30 articles in the annual town meeting, 15 of them were determined by the voters at town meeting that they didn't need to be debated, that they could be passed unanimously. So that gave us all the more time to talk for as long as we wanted on those matters that they did want to debate, which were numerous. But we still have suggestions on things like perhaps moving the town meeting to maybe the weekend instead of a weeknight. We have some suggestions about limiting the duration of time that someone can speak, or the number of times that they can speak, and actually a number of recommendations that are among those that we received in prior years, and when the board voted to establish a a study committee to increase voter participation. So you might want to think about how to sort of take in all of these recommendations and come up with some kind of a process to do a recap, a postmortem of how it went for further discussion. The one thing that did happen at town meeting, as far as procedures go, that the town meeting did approve the bylaw amendment that the selectmen brought forward at the moderator's request, and so there's an amendment now that's going to the Attorney General, which would essentially raise from 1 person to 7 the number of people that are required to invoke the ballot and checklist. That the existing language was that unless it was a majority vote, that is, if 1 person objected, you had to do the ballot and checklist. The standard is now being moved to 7 people. If 7 people want the ballot and checklist, then you'd be required to do that for borrowing articles. So that's the input that we received. And then lastly, in the packet is a copy of an invitation to the Council on Aging and Friends of the COA Volunteer Appreciation Luncheon, which will be held at noon on Wednesday, May 24th in the multipurpose room. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. That is 24th at noon. I missed out on all these free lunches. All right. Next up, we have 2A. Actually, before we go on, there was a suggestion made that there might be an opportunity to move some things around a little bit here tonight. Mr. Borowski's here right now, and we have personnel. Under personnel, item 7, reappointment of Mr. Borowski. John, if you want to hang until 8:15 or thereabouts, we could do that, but if the board's okay with it, I wouldn't mind.
If you don't mind, I'd like to do it now, I get my 7 o'clock meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
You guys okay with that?
Sure. Fine with me.
Yeah. But I would say that if you guys don't mind jumping up to 7A, that would, John, come forward, please. Yes.
This had, the matter of John's reappointment had actually been on our agenda last fall when John brought to our attention, or I think the State Veterans Office did, that while John was originally appointed back in 2010 and was reappointed, that there was yet another 3-year reappointment term that we had neglected to do, so we went back and retroactively did it with the reminder that we would be back now to be able to reappoint you to a term, since your current term expires in June of this year, and want to extend that for another 3 years, if you'll have us.
Yes. You put up with it.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service and for doing what you do for the veterans, for the town as a whole. You're everywhere with the kids with the scholarships, and you're all over town, and you're always volunteering, giving of yourself and of your time, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you for that. I don't see there being any real debate on this, but if anybody wants to ask John any questions, or I'd open it up.
Period, a great challenge. The needs of both older veterans and younger veterans are very different, and, as we know, John's been before us a lot to, make changes in the program to address those needs. So appreciate that he's there.
Agreed. Good.
I'm good.
Entertain a motion.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 115, subsection 10, to reappoint John Eporowski of Littleton as part-time Director of Veteran Services for the town of Littleton for a term expiring June 30th, 2020. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Very much. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Watch for the minefield here.
Thank you for that accommodation. All right. So, the matter of the meeting schedule, 2A. Something put up there, Keith? There we go. All right, so we've got some meetings scheduled ahead of us. We've got May 22nd scheduled, and as well as the meetings as posted, June 19th, 10th, and 24th of July, August 7th, 21st, September 11th, 25th. Also with the caveat on there that we're going to schedule a joint meeting with FinCom on Tuesday, June 6th, 2017, at 7 PM to review the audit that we all received, the FY 2016 audit. Any discussion or questions relative to the?
2 points on the audit. Do our newer members have copies of that? You do, okay.
Just received them. Just got them.
Just got 'em, okay.
Yeah.
And,
Should be good to go by tomorrow.
right. Yeah, as far as the schedule itself goes, who knows how this will all work out over time, but I noticed one conflict here. I'd appreciate if we could move June 19 to like June 12th or something instead. I don't know if that's a possibility before we cast it in concrete.
I got a calendar. All right. I'm gonna have to make some changes in my calendar. I don't have any conflicts on the 12th, if that works.
Fine by me.
No, I don't have.
Do the 5th and the 12th?
Thank you.
Joe, you good?
That puts how many weeks between? one,
Almost a whole
two-
month.
Yeah, it puts almost a whole month between meetings. I want to adjust. I
July's
can't really
July's a
adjust
tough one,
July.
yeah. If we needed
Got
one,
July
if we needed one, like.
Do it the 26th then.
Go the other way? How are we looking for agenda items? We pretty heavy?
We'll be dividing up the annual appointments
Appointments and
across 2
roles, yeah.
meetings.
Right.
So the only other thing might be, actually, it's not fewer meetings, it's more. If you decided, for example, you wanted to do a special meeting for goal setting, which usually you want to have a night set aside just to do that.
Right.
That might be, like an additional meeting. Not that I'm suggesting you do the 5th, the 12th, and the 26th, but,
Either the 12th or the 26th or the 25th are fine with me. It's just the 19th the problem. So, I understand the logic of having less than a month between that and the 10th. We inevitably, as Keith was alluding to, add a meeting somewhere along the way anyway,
Right.
once we start to figure out people's schedules.
And it might not be a Monday if it's a special meeting.
yeah, the special meeting, well, I think last year we did it on a Wednesday. We did in fact, you could feel better about adopting the 5th and the 12th for your regular meeting if you then,
It leaves those
the
2
next
weeks.
thing, and the next item, or one of the next ones, when you're, the
Goals.
very next one, you're doing a goal setting, if you pick another night of the week in July, then, maybe the third week, is
Or
it
the
that
end of
whole
June.
week
Or
of
the end of
the night?
June, huh?
Or
No,
June,
just
rather,
that
yeah.
particular
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, so maybe you want to pick in June,
21st or the 28th?
yeah. Then we'd
Good
have
idea.
a filler, then if something,
Yeah, why
urgent
don't
did
we,
happen, we could just tack that on to the meeting night.
Okay.
All right, so
So we'll make the accommodation for Mr. Glavy, change the 19th.
Which are we accommodating it to, the 12th or the
12th.
25th?
I think the
Let's do
12th.
the 12th,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then that leaves us the flexibility
Let's do
on
the
the goal
12th,
setting.
and then maybe you pick
I'll probably end up
21st
missing it anyway.
for the goal setting.
12th?
With the plan to do the goal setting
Yeah.
the 19th or the week of the 19th or 26th,
Yeah.
somewhere.
Right, yeah, that would give us a way to deal with an urgent matter, attacking that on.
We could, yeah, we could.
So it won't actually be a whole month, but,
Okay.
And I have a question mark on the 7th that I don't know yet right now.
August 7th?
Yeah, I mean,
I've got some vacation things that are up in the air as well, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with it, and then as we get closer, if we know that we're gonna have a
yeah,
quorum.
and sometimes we've had to adjust.
Sure.
I mean, this is mostly to give guidance if we need a public hearing or something, we want to,
Right.
a month out, we want to be able to assign a night for that, but.
All right, so, we just make that amendment from that first item to the 12th? Any other input? Entertain a motion?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule the following Board of Selectmen's regular meetings for the dates indicated at 6:30 in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Building. June 5th and 12th, 2017, regular meetings. July 10th and 24th, 2017, regular meetings. August 7th and 21st, 2017, regular meetings. And September 11th and 25th, 2017, as regular meetings. And further scheduled joint meeting with the Finance Committee on Tuesday, June 6th, 2017, at 7 PM to review the fiscal year 2016 audit.
The second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, 2B. Goal setting for FY 2018.
This is one of the more important things that the Board of Selectmen does, and not just because it's only the Board of Selectmen that can do it, but that it guides the whole organization of what we spend time on. And I've included in this item an update on progress towards the Selectmen's goals for the previous 12 months. And we have typically done a two-step process where the board holds a special meeting, one-item agenda, to do a goal-setting exercise, just amongst yourselves mostly. Prior to the meeting, typically, each member would submit a draft list of goals. If I could then put them in a matrix and try to give you back a guidance document that shows where you have commonalities, compare what last year's goals were to maybe some proposed goals for next year based on your input. Then, as a result of that process, we publish a public hearing notice of the preliminary results of your goal setting, and then have a public hearing at least a couple of weeks later to get input from the community. Because it's the summer, the schedule inevitably erodes, and despite our best intentions, usually June becomes July, becomes August, and for the last couple of years, it's been August by the time we actually had the public hearing.
Right.
So if we could do it sooner, that, we did do it in July for a couple of years, but maybe this will be an opportunity for us to get it done a little earlier rather than later.
Go, Mr. Glavy.
Yeah, I agree with Keith, the importance of it. I agree also that it'd be good if we could get the process underway earlier. And I see this summary document, I appreciate Keith putting it together, but it calls to mind, or whoever put it together with your
Yes.
guidance, there's some issues here that are evident, and understandably so. I don't think this is it doesn't pick up exactly where the board's last whack at it was, and it does fill in a lot of activity that is completely accurate and laudable, but it was more the department heads' activities rather than what the board members' stated wants or activities were. And, just as for instance, and I'll pick it out because it jumps out, economic development, we look at that, the bullet items that are cited there are just the activity of this board or the administrator's office. There's no representation of what the Economic Development Committee's been doing in terms of the website. It references the website, but there's been progress on that, significant progress, and then also in identifying properties for, some direct targeting of activity. I just cite that as an example. I think we need to review this. I think we need to review as well where we left things last year, especially for the benefit of the two new members, to see that we started with 5 individual wish lists, as it were, or perspectives, and, with the 40% turnover on the board, that's, I think, key this year to not just keep regrinding the mill, and go back and revisit that. A couple ideas I know last year that, I brought to the fore, didn't anticipate they would get dealt with, but have been, they've disappeared from this list, are the idea of examining Littleton's ability to use a ComStat or a similar type model for data-generated, review of department performance, that sort of thing, in conjunction with also opening up our online presence. I know that we have a software upgrade underway, but we haven't had a whole lot of dialogue, feedback in that. The opportunity to do the open checkbook as the state does in some other communities. Similarly, I know there's, the website upgrade, we're due, Keith, I believe, in a couple of weeks to have an update on that. But before we get an update on what other people are doing, I think it's important that we convey what our, perspective is, because all of us have gone out and, dealt with the public. So I'd kind of like to make sure that we identify early what the board's personal priorities are, try to synthesize that and, and not lose track of things. There's a balance here. There's things that the departments do as a matter of course and at our direction, then there's the things that the board members themselves want to actively get involved in, and I think that's where this is particularly important for us. So I just want to see us get at it sooner rather than later and get at it right.
Are you suggesting waiting until like the week of June 19th, maybe
I'd suggest circulating some information for members and encouraging members to each, draft their first run on ideas. I'd be happy to see it on the agenda for the next meeting too, and until such time as we're done with it. But I just wanted to throw out my 2 cents worth on it.
Okay.
No delay, Chase, from my mind.
No, right, I mean, we've got 2 choices here, or at least laid out hypothetically, the week of June 5th or 19th, with moving the selectmen meeting to June 12th, that I think makes the 19th the right week probably to do.
Oh, was that the day you?
Oh, well, we would discuss this certainly at a regular meeting too.
Right, absolutely,
we
but a special meeting to address.
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's kind of dependent on how much progress we make at the 22nd and the 5th and on like that.
Yeah, you could certainly have an agenda item at a regular meeting.
Right.
I think it should be an agenda item, to your point.
To just have, what, I mean, if there are suggestions from individual selectmen, no reason to wait. I mean, if you could
Right.
bring those forward at any of the meetings, and we could include those updates.
Yeah, if it comes together quickly on both the topics and the process, then there may not be a need for a special meeting. If it doesn't, if there's a lot of disparate stuff, then we do have a special
Right.
meeting. But the sooner we take give people enough time to, get up to speed and put their thoughts on paper, but the sooner we can hear what people's objectives are, then the sooner we'll know where we stand.
Right.
Do you want to add anything, Sam?
So maybe a deadline to submit our suggestions and then a deadline just to discuss them.
Yeah, so I'd be most interested in
Okay.
hearing from the newer members, how much time do you need to just get your first,
Right.
whack at it, a page and a half out of the way?
I don't need much time. I'm pretty
I-
much ready to go.
Usually fresh off the trail you are.
It's been a long time in the last
It's,
couple of
yeah,
weeks.
it's been a long month, believe
articulating
me,
this.
yeah. So I'm pretty much ready to go, so
I'd
whatever
make-
you decide.
I'd make the recommendation that we keep it on each, as an agenda item on each of the next meetings until such time as we decide to have a special meeting specifically for goals.
And how about a reminder that folks should submit through Keith for the
Right.
board, a memo or whatever their thoughts are.
Right, by what date?
I don't know, whatever the
Do you want
chair.
to, distribute that matrix, or do you want to wait till you get the feedback from us in order to compile?
Well, what I could do is I could at least share the matrix that we had from last year with you, so you can sort of get an idea of what of how the process would work.
Okay.
Has worked. And you'd send it to everybody, right?
Yeah, to all of you, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, good. And that'll be a good starting point. You guys can kind of benchmark.
Take a look at it
that.
and
Yeah,
make suggestions and send it back.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ask that you send it all through Keith.
Yep.
Just don't communicate
No.
amongst the
Yeah.
board
To
to avoid any open meeting violations.
I hear you.
And as you're going through those, if you see some items that are near and dear to your heart, that's kind of how we come to a consensus on who gets responsibility for different goals.
Okay.
So be ready to fight for it. All right, so we're going to just include that. You'll get that information out to us, and it'll be ongoing. And what do we want to do for a deadline for folks to get their thoughts in?
Well, let's see, if you want to include it on, as a practical matter, if you want to have an agenda item on May 22nd, anything that I get by that previous
Thursday?
Thursday, would be able to include in the packet.
Yeah, and it's an iterative process. so-
Right, right.
18th.
Okay.
May 18th?
Okay.
So thoughts by May 18th.
18th, 4/5/22, okay.
Okay,
Okay.
good. So no need for a motion on that, right?
Right.
We're not going to set a date. All right. 2C, Selectmen Regulations and Policies. This is something that's, you guys absorbed these yet? Commit them to memory?
There's a couple of things going on in this agenda item. First is that it's, because there's 200 pages worth of collected policies and procedures and regulations adopted by prior boards of selectmen. And since those regulations and policies continue to exist until they're amended, a couple of years ago, when the board was doing its annual review of the process, they thought that it would be important for each new board to review those existing policies early on in your term. So the goal is to have it done, reviewed at the first meeting in June, which would be June 5th, if that works. And that we will get you a codified version. The one that's printed has not been updated in about a year, and so we want to have town council just update its codification, and we'll get that to you. There, and along those lines, in terms of a review, that there is a punch list of items that staff is working on, and I'm sorry that these pages aren't numbered, but following the table of contents, first page, regulations and policies under review by town staff, which is 3 at the bottom, but it's inexplicably. But among the things that staff is working on is the traffic regulations, that there is a provision in the Municipal Modernization Act that passed last year to allow cities and towns to lower the speed limits to 25 miles an hour without state approval. We haven't taken that up yet, but it's something, a number of communities have done it, and, you may want to take a look at that. There are some policies we're looking at: equal opportunity, equal employment opportunity, discrimination, sexual harassment, staffing vacancy review, supplies and services, contracts, which the Finance Department is looking at, a couple of redundant policies that we might want to take out, as they are essentially covered now in newer policies that have been adopted, and some other policies, investment policy, which is one of those that needs to be added to the codification, but we're expecting further amendments from staff. And then 2 new policies that the Personnel Board voted last Thursday to recommend, which specifically are in front of you tonight in the second motion. It's to adopt a policy. It's a 2-step process. One is to receive the policy at one meeting and then to vote to adopt it at the next. And in between time, we circulate the drafts of the policies to affected boards and departments to get their input. So the annual review process is an opportunity for the board members as well to identify what areas would you like us to be working on, what, problematic areas that are not on any of the lists that we shared that we should be spending some time on. And you're not voting on any policies tonight, it's just you're scheduling it for a future discussion.
All right, so what's the pleasure of the board? Really no discussion. We just make a motion to have it come back, have an opportunity to review it
On what date?
on June 5th.
Is that what you anticipate?
Yeah, that would work for us.
And that's a point in time in which we would discuss, in particular, the
merits of
new policies.
Yeah.
You could discuss the new, and also, after having reviewed as much of the 200 pages as
Present the proposed
Make
changes.
recommendations.
if there are areas that
Say
you'd like us to
we're all
work
gonna
on.
get that electronically or whatever?
You'll all get it electronically, yeah. If anyone wants things in hard copy, I guess would say that you can request it, and we'll print it out, but we'll avoid printing out 5 copies of everything, especially large documents if folks don't want them. So it's easier to search an electronic document than it is the paper one, so.
All right,
So we end up on June 5th?
June 5th
June
for a
5th,
date.
Monday, June 5th.
So entertain a motion.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule the conduct of its annual review of the Selectmen's regulations and policies for the board's regular meeting on June 5th, 2017. Further move that the Board of Selectmen vote to receive the proposed domestic violence leave policy and separation of employment policy and procedures from the Personnel Board and to schedule the adoption of said policies for the Board of Selectmen's next regular meeting.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay. All right, 2D, annual town board appointments.
And this is just a preview that as part of our annual town board appointment process that we set aside 2 meetings in June. We'll divide up, and this will be, this motion would now say the June 5th and 12th. And we are in the process of we're advertising the positions that are open and, or for which there's term expirations. And the deadline for receipt of applications is Friday, June 2nd. And we are also notifying all of the incumbents and inviting them to reapply and notifying the boards on which they serve, asking for their recommendations.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
Could we, not just for the newer members, but some of us older members, could we get a memo that spells out which of these are statutory, which are bylaw, and a number of them are committees that we've just made as an ad hoc?
Yes, we will get you what we call the town board control sheet, which I know Anthony is updating even as we
Okay.
speak, which has just that information. It
Right.
has the statutory authority or bylaw, what its function is, and then the roster of employees.
I mean, it's helpful just to know, what's, we're mandated to do and what we've chosen to do, and then especially, one of my policy objectives for the year would be to review a lot of our standing subcommittees, see what's still appropriate, what we might want to rejigger, and especially in light of the master plan and other objectives, and kind of shuffle the deck that way. So that's, before we start reappointing people to committees we're going to eliminate, maybe we should, I have nothing in mind personally, but.
No, but I know what you're saying, because when you take a look at some of those committees, they were appointed 10 years ago and they've met once.
Right.
And you usually tried not to appoint people to committees whose mission is to destroy the committee. So,
Well,
I mean, we're not
yeah.
the federal government, so.
I'll ask this question. Do we have, that will come with the roster of each member of the committee, commission, board, whatever it is, and their expiration, just so we can do some planning and
Yes.
maybe just recruiting, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And I, you know, I may well want, I'm sure I would like to add a couple of committees. I mean, I think with the sewer project, I'd like to reinvigorate, you know, what was the sewer study committee into kind of an advisory group, you know, personally, and we may well want to entertain an idea along those lines for the space needs too. I don't know, there's a lot of, you know, just to throw ideas out.
Good. All right. So we need a motion?
Move the Board of Selectmen vote to schedule interviews and appointments for its annual town board appointments process for June 5th and June 12th, 2017.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so item 3 is public input, members' updates, and selectmen goals. So is anybody interested in coming forward and offering up some public input?
Good morning. Just a couple things about town meeting. You know, I'd really like to look into somehow making it not go to 1 AM. So, you know, maybe a Saturday afternoon in the early spring. I don't know, you know, maybe putting some things on the ballot if that's at all possible in any way, limiting, you know, having a clock to count down how long people can speak for or something. It's just, I don't think it's accessible to everyone if it goes to one.
Appreciate your input. We did, town administrator did read a lot of letters stating some of the same things you just stated. You know, maybe we can put a shot clock on top of the basketball hoop and have the buzzer go off and when people's time is up. But there's been a lot of talk around town. There's been a lot of people that have offered some ideas. And really, we're willing to look at just about anything. You know, there have been a number of the ideas that have been tossed out there have been looked at in the past. For instance, we have tried Saturdays in the past about 10 years ago.
Yeah, but it was different from what Erica was suggesting, you know, it was a May, it actually went later, I mean, I
Yeah,
think it worse.
it's early spring, right.
Yeah, I mean, I just checked into it. Town of Westford had theirs, I think, on Saturday, March 25th. They had 900 people turn out. Now, they're a bigger town than us, you know, by double, but it's before, you know, the outdoor sports season, before people open up their own, you know, summer homes or go away.
Work in the yard.
Yeah, so it's, I'm very much open to that, and maybe we can get into a discussion of some of that in the goal-setting process.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. It's something that's, we're aware of it. We've made some changes since the fall town meeting.
Right.
And we're, you know, it's something that's we got to keep working it and trying new things and seeing what works. But appreciate any and all input. Feel free to bury Keith with ideas. He
Right.
shares them all with us, so, yeah, the one challenge that we do run
Not
into
in the
with,
middle of the night, Dallas.
yeah,
Okay?
please
Just
be
'cause you
respectful of
send
his
that in the middle of the night doesn't mean
his
I'm,
vibrating phone on his nightstand.
get some sleep.
But some of the concerns with doing it too early in the spring is that there's preparation and budgets and things like that aren't necessarily as prepared as we may want them to be. It might just be a paradigm shift.
But other times do it. you
Yeah,
know.
sure, other towns do it.
Right.
So it is something we need to look at.
And you run the risk of missing the snowbirds if you go too early, too. You know, that's
Yeah.
a real population in town, too.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, I think the best way to address that in part is to look at what other towns are doing and steal their best practices.
Sure.
I mean,
Right.
To some extent, sure.
you know,
Right.
everybody's gonna be a little different, but let's look at Westford, you know, what years has Westford had good turnout and bad turnout, and how does that fit
Right.
into what might
Yeah.
work?
I mean, my parents remember
agree.
growing up here, it used to be on Saturdays, years ago. That was a long time ago. I don't know, Joe, if you know, remember those days?
What his
I
parents
actually
were doing?
talked to,
Move the cows out of the pasture and everybody meets.
I actually talked to someone that works for the town of Westford, and he's talked to me extensively about their procedure for their town meeting on Saturday, and it is different than what we do, and it works really well. They have paddles that they use for,
Oh, wait a
no, but instead of hands, they hold up paddles.
Disagreement?
And
Wait a second.
they also have two lines. They have a pro and a con, not a pro and a con, but if you're for something.
Favor or opposed?
Yeah, and the town moderator keeps it balanced I know, I think the library discussion was, it went on extensively, but it was a little out of balance, in my opinion. So I think Westford might be a good model for us to look at, just from discussions I've had. But I agree with what Eric is saying. I think there's definitely room for improvement. And we have made some good improvements, but we need to do better, and we will. So, I agree.
Continuous improvements.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, to me, the biggest issue is finding a way for, one note here notes absentee ballots, finding some way for people who physically can't get to the meeting but are otherwise engaged to participate in the process in some way. Whether that's written comments to be read at the meeting or something of that nature at a minimum.
Take some research.
Right, exactly, what are other people doing?
That's been a legal hurdle. I mean, that's.
Absolutely, yeah, there are a lot of challenges there.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Erica.
Hi, I wasn't going to say anything. Christine Whitehouse, Star Hill. But I made it one of my personal goals. I set a personal goal to help the town improve the town meeting process. So if I can volunteer to help and organize or gather data or do anything to help, so that I don't have to operate heavy machinery on 3 hours sleep in the future, I think it would be great. And I thought that the new improvements, the changes, the call voting was excellent, and I applaud everyone's efforts there. But if I can help going forward, I definitely want to. I feel like I've heard a million different ideas. I have no idea which of those is good and which is crazy, but I would be happy to gather that information
Sure.
or do anything I could to help.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else? Public input? Okay. Member input? Mr. Glavy, would you like to start?
Just delighted at the size of the turnout on Saturday. That's always a good feeling for the town, and a repeat, a hearty welcome to our two new members.
Thank you.
Cindy?
Happy to be here. It was an experience running for an elected position, but it was great because I actually met a lot of new people in town that I wouldn't have otherwise met, and it was interesting to hear their input and their goals and their perspective about our town. So I just appreciate everybody that supported me and gave me the opportunity to be here tonight.
Thank you. Chase?
I'm quite pleased to see that there were multiple contested races, not just at the selectmen level, but also school committee and light and electric. Those contested races add a lot to the discussion. They bring new ideas forward, and that's important. So I was very happy to see multiple contested races, and thank you for having me.
Mr. Knox?
I do want to welcome our two new members, and I think the public has to know, when you put your name out there and have to go campaign, the amount of time, effort, money that's put out there, and I know how difficult it is, and sometimes you take your hits, and sometimes it hurts, but I'm glad you guys went through it. It helps out the whole process. That means not only selectmen, but any race. It's a tough thing to do. And, I did have my number one subject was town meeting, but everyone's talked about that, and that'll come up many times, because I don't want to go to bed at, the one before this, I think it was 2 o'clock when I finally got home, so there's a lot of improvement that can be made. And I just want to thank Jimmy Carr. And 9 years he served on the board. I thought he was tremendous in a lot of different areas. He's a financing whiz with contracts and things like that, and people just didn't see all the time the work that he would do that wasn't at the meeting. He was running from here to there to Department of Transportation meetings and things like that, so I want to give him a lot of credit. We're in a better place now than we were 9 years ago, and he was part of that's got accomplished. So I want to thank Mr. Carr very much for the time he served the town.
Yeah, absolutely. I just have a couple of updates, not really updates, but just some input. Many people, if you came out and voted on Saturday, you may have seen some heavy equipment at Alumni Field. That is underway, so there's been some progress made there. I'd like to thank the PMBC, Mr. Ansaldi, Jim Clyde, Chris Stoddard, the folks at Gale, everybody from the town departments has kind of kicked in, the superintendent of schools, Mike Fontanella, Steve, Mark. There's been a number of people that have been very active getting that project moving and moving forward. We've been assured that we'll be able to host any events that we had scheduled for September for start of school, and we're going to hold the contractor to that. And I'm sure that with Anthony on board and our clerk of the works, Kevin Heffernan from Vertex, we're on the right path. I also wanted to comment on just driving through town, and I commute quite a distance to work, and I go through a lot of towns, a lot of smaller towns, and I'd like to thank Chris Stoddard and Jim Clyde and the teams that they have out kind of preparing our town. I know they're getting ready for Memorial Day. Just the presentation and the way that the old burial ground up on Great Road, the way that looks, the way the common looks, just they have limited resources and they always do a great job, and they really have our town looking really nice. There's not, some of the towns I go through, there's just a lot of trash on the ground and there's no weed whacking done on the common areas and things like that. So I'd like to take my hat off to them and say thank you very much for the work that you do. They don't always get recognized, and I think it's important to recognize them.
They're the unsung heroes.
They are the unsung heroes,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah, for sure. All right, so at this point, a little behind schedule, I apologize. We have a joint meeting with the Planning Board and the Master Plan Update Steering Committee. If you folks, got Mr. Avella's here from the Master Plan Update Steering Committee, and I think we have four of the five members of the Planning Board. So, you guys are comfortable where you are, you can stay where you are. If you want to come forward, whatever works for you guys.
Come on forward.
Come on.
A lot of time, effort, and energy was put into the Master Plan Update Steering Committee, and I'm sorry, Anna, I didn't recognize you. A lot of time, resources, effort, energy, a lot of folks put a lot into. Paul was on it, Melissa Hebert, there was a lot of folks that did a lot of good, and Mr. Avella was chairman of that committee, and I'll hand it over to you to do what you're going to do.
Mr. Chairman? Sincerely, the honor and privilege to be in front of both your boards this evening to speak about the implementation committee for the master plan. The action you're going to take this evening is extremely important to our town. It's a continuation of a process that we've been ongoing for over 2 years now. And it's going to be a codification also of some recommendations we made. And very specifically, you'll be able to nail one of the recommendations from the Master Plan Update Steering Committee this evening. Number 46, establish a Master Plan Implementation Committee. So I applaud you on this evening in already knocking one of the 67 off the list. So we're well on our way once you have your vote this evening. Thank you. But importantly, what I want to add too is we had an introductory letter, if you will call it a transmittal letter, that precedes the plan itself. And I just want to read you one sentence from it. Finally, in Chapter 10, Implementation, the plan brings together its various elements, prescribes a way forward, and offers 67 recommendations to breathe life into the plan. So it's that implementation committee that's going to help breathe life into this plan. And with that, if I may, Kevin Scott, would you just come on over here, please, for a second? Please.
Kevin Scott?
Peter.
That's his brother.
Chairman.
I thought it was.
They called me DeCoste, so. How many years did I serve on the school committee?
On behalf of the Master Plan Update Steering Committee and the folks of the town of Littleton, I'd like to present you with the master plan for you to implement and get it going.
Hot potato.
I won't hold on for a while, thank you.
Peter,
Thank you very much.
the three of you.
Oh, boy. How about you get in the middle, that way you're the least looking,
My
Not
buds.
sure what you meant by that.
I'll leave it at that.
Hold up the plan.
It's colorful.
It's a visit. Perfectly.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I could have fooled him on that.
Anybody that was at
Anthony
town
really
meeting
had
and
the
did not
money
hand
spot
out,
there.
they come to that fourth out right there.
Right off to the side.
And we're here to answer any questions you gentlemen.
I swear I heard Kevin too. Scary thought. Scary.
Thank you, Mr. Avella. Thank you, all the members of the Master Plan Update Steering Committee. And Kevin Scott, thank you very much.
If his brother Kevin was here, you would know about it.
Meet you on the path to the middle school. All right, so at this point, we've got some conversation about the implementation. We've each had an opportunity to read the much of the master plan and the document that you just received, we just received, and there's been a proposal that the implementation committee be comprised of five members, 5 Littleton residents staggered for 3-year terms, plus 2 alternate members, to be appointed, I would say jointly by the planning board and the board of selectmen. And I'd like to just kind of open it up.
Mr. Chair, we would agree with that.
I would like, that seems like a very fair entity, seeing as how, again, the planning board is a creator of it and an implementator, and the board of selectmen were right there, right down the entire length of everything. So yes, I think it'd be fair, these two boards pick the...
Of selection.
This way. So, good.
Any further conversation from the board? I mean, does that seem like the right number, 5 members with 2
I'm
alternates?
not certain. I mean, I could go with that, you know, if it's implementation, but in truth, we're calling it implementation to kind of hold our feet to the fire. It doesn't have statutory authority, so the only thing I am concerned about is, you know, if it were a little bigger, we'd have a little more public input. But, you know, if the planning board is okay with that, then I'm okay with that. You know, I think at this point, too, the planning process unearthed a lot of projects that are capital in nature, and for implementation purposes, certainly the selectmen and planning board are involved, but probably also the finance committee, too. And if we were gonna do, you know, long-term planning, when to fit things into capital models and such, they probably have as much, you know, reason to be at the table.
One selectman, one planning board, one
FinCom?
finance committee on the board itself, and then make it up with 5 or 6 more. Citizens.
Formal would be, give it a 7, I don't know, whatever. I mean,
7 without alternates or 7 with 2 alternates?
I don't want to make it up on the fly. I was supportive of this initially, right from the start, and am so, and I can't wait to get started on it. I just think it's worthy of a little discussion of what the best makeup should be, and so I'm really looking for input, too.
If I may just propose, we do have 2 new members.
Yeah.
I mean, you pretty much tasked with coming up to speed pretty quickly.
Right.
I would not be opposed to having the discussion and talking to with the planning board, and determine how we compose the committee, and then maybe do joint appointments at a subsequent meeting.
Oh, sure, I mean, we're in no position to make appointments now.
Gives all of us, including the 2 newest members, an opportunity to really dig into it and make the best decision possible. So, does that sound reasonable to?
I think we would agree on the process. I would say that we don't have a consensus on what the right configuration is of the implementation committee either. So I think the discussion would be a healthy thing to start, and from there, the number could be established in tonight's conversation, and then.
Do you guys anticipate meeting as a board to discuss this independently, or just as a
No,
collective?
we've had discussions
Yeah.
about it, we just didn't come to consensus, so I thought that.
I think we came to make sure that we were both going to be involved.
Right.
And that's-
I mean, it's a joint
I
meeting.
think
We're
that's
both
key.
posted. We're
That's
both,
key.
yes, this is an open meeting, so we can have that discussion. You guys can take a vote, we can take a vote, so, Mr. Bergman, you would,
Well, I was going to say, sometimes what the board does with since it's by your vote and not by a town meeting vote that you're establishing the committee, sometimes what you've done is, and in fact, I think you may have done it with the master plan steering committee, is you vote to establish it, you invite applications, and then frankly, once you receive the applications and saw how many people were interested, at least
increase it,
initially,
sure.
then you set what the number of members was. Because it only takes your further vote to amend the composition. Let's say, even if you did vote this tonight as a starting point,
Sure.
you could still amend it at the meeting when you're making appointments.
Yeah, so we can change the number as we wish and
Gauge
adjust
the
it as we
interest.
wish.
right.
So I think that would be nice. I think hopefully the number of applicants is going to determine quite a bit, because, I mean, even just to get this.
If you get less than
committee-
7 applicants, we'll start to worry.
The other detail I think that's worth focusing on too is the mission statement, which, PJ, correct me if I'm getting it wrong, but I think it's the longest and second to last paragraph on your cover memo, serves essentially as a mission statement, is that right? And I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to look that over and agree with the charge that we're giving, the committee, and if anybody has any thoughts or needs a week or so to think about it, suggestions of things to put in, take out, et cetera. We can't, legislate away either the authority of the planning board or the selectmen, so it's advisory just on its, by its nature, but still, I think we should be real specific about what we're telling these people to do. Just been down that road a million times where people get put on a committee and they think I'm in charge of X. No, you're not,
Right.
Keith, do you have that available to put up, just because we're referencing a document that we're all holding on to, and there's folks that either at home or
Yes,
in the audience that,
I know where I can get at it.
or I can read it.
Maybe while Keith is working on that, if I may, Mr. Chair, the planning board noted that you guys prefer committee members comprised solely of residents who are not serving in another elected or appointed position.
That would be my position.
Okay.
Board. I don't think we have a consensus. I think some other members had other opinions that maybe some elected officials should be on from different boards.
Okay, and I wanted to understand the basis for that recommendation and if it was an individual or planning board recommendation.
Well, the reason why we thought that, one selectman, one planning board member would be in, is because eventually, whatever their recommendation is, it comes to the planning board, and then we have to work on its implementation. So, there being some rules and regulations that the population may not know exactly what we can and can't do, we'd at least try and forego some avenues that they'd be going down, that there was just a dead end. And again, I don't know every rule and regulation in the book, and Maren obviously is very well formed on all these things, and more than once I look at her and say, what do I do now? So, that's the reason why I was looking for a planning board member on it. I was looking for a selectman on it, because just exactly what can we put before the town? So, and, I realized that you looked at these two and said, well, you guys got nothing to do. Yeah. But, my only worry is that, I've been on the planning board 6 years or 7 years, and there's still things that escape me. So I'm not saying not to pick either of these two, but, or him for definitely. I think Joe's in. No,
I'm interested. I've said all along, the key is getting to this point where we actually implement things. Until such point, it's a document.
But I think we should wait and see just how many people we get here. It'd be great to see 50 people apply. This is,
Solicit input, listening to Peter, I'm glad I'm sitting down saying this, I kind of agree with his logic. I mean, if you put all new faces on there, then, it wouldn't be, there wouldn't be any continuity, for one. There wouldn't be necessarily an acknowledgement of what you can and can't do, and there might be a tendency to want to recreate the wheel.
If I could just pause this conversation just for a moment.
Yeah.
We do have the public hearing that we do have to open, so I'd like to open that, and we'll open that, and maybe pause that, and then rekindle this conversation, but we do have to open that. It's supposed to open at 7:30. So,
We all set? You want me to read it?
yeah, we do, thank you.
Legal notice, Board of Selectmen, public hearing, Class 2 license, Jake's Auto Body, 1 Adams Street, Littleton, Mass. 01460. Littleton Board of Selectmen will conduct a public hearing on May 8, 2017, at 7:30 in the Littleton Town Offices, Room 103, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. To act on the request of John E. Bowles, doing business as Jake's Auto Body, 1 Adams Street, for a Class 2 license to buy, sell, exchange, or assemble new and used motor vehicles or parts thereof at 1 Adams Street, Littleton. Comments thereon may be submitted in writing to the Selectman Town Administrator's Office, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. By noon on Friday, May 5th, or in person at the hearing. Littleton Board of Selectmen, Chuck DeCoste.
Thank you. All right, so we've been opened. Can I just ask you to well, actually, we have, we've got hearing that we're already kind of, or a conversation we're kind of in the middle of with the planning board. We've got 2 meetings open. Because we posted for 7:30, we did have to open it, so I'm just going to ask that we're open now.
We're open now, and then we'll get to you as soon as we're done with the planning board. Is it okay?
Of course it is.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, John. No, I appreciate it. It's been Chairman Pro Tem.
Use the language.
All right, so this is the language that Mr. Glavy was referencing, for those of you that may have been saying, what are you talking about? So, so this is, you referred to it as the mission statement. While folks are reading that or brushing up on that, Mr. Vella had his hand up a couple of times during the conversation. I'd like to open it up to you.
Provide rationale as to why the recommendation came forward this way. It wasn't done in a vacuum. In fact, Mr. Glavy's on there, Mr. Hebert, in this room now, Stephen here, Kevin, Peter, whoever's maybe this evening was on there also, as was Rich Crowley. So we went through this process thinking what might be the best thing. This is a working committee, and not that you guys are not a working committee, but certainly what the vision was, and what emerged out of that is perhaps it might be best if it's not people who are serving on current boards, whether it be planning board, selectmen, whatever, is bandwidth. And the bandwidth, our expectation is, has to be pretty wide and pretty deep also for the folks that are going to serve on this. Because it's not just going to be a couple meetings a month sort of thing. Individuals are going to have to be out and about the community, going to the various other board meetings and committee meetings that we have in town, working with them extensively over time. We do not see this as where they pontificate for a little while and then disseminate some information and that's it. They actually have to roll their sleeves up and get their elbows dirty with it. So that was the rationale behind limiting the size of it, first off. Because as you know, just getting a quorum can sometimes be difficult. We've seen that in a couple other boards here in town where we want to reduce the size. Even as enthusiastic as folks were over the long haul and realized our update committee was a 2-year committee, and what you're looking at is an enduring committee to go on year after year. Certainly it's going to be staggered appointments, but it's going to be one of those enduring committees, as I said, where the people are going to have to put a lot of effort into it. And frankly, I think there's going to be some burnout with some folks even at that. That people that started probably won't see it all the way through because other things happen in life. As we move along in life happens. I would offer that the people who are outside, because you're going to be absorbing the information from the implementation committee. This calls for reports to you. It calls for reports to town meeting. So this is a bit more extensive than really the way a lot of other committees do business. If you think about it for a moment, because they're going to be reaching out and going out through the entire town. And that was the reason that it was designed this way, and then the alternates, which function a little bit like the ZBA in a way, that they be available should not have a quorum. So 5 becomes the quorum, but with the alternates to fill in that. So I'd ask you to consider that too, the ability to actually fill a quorum day in and day out when the meetings are being held. And then again, think of what your own personal bandwidth is. So if you want to volunteer yourselves, thank you. But think about what your bandwidth is right now and what we are offering that this committee should be able to do. Do you think you can fit it in? If the answer is yes, that's your call. I would offer, having sat at that table, asking a lot from you guys and gals if you do that. So that was the background to that.
Thank you. All right. Any additional input?
Yeah, and I still think we should get public input. I mean, at the time it was presented essentially in this form. It was accepted because we had all agreed that we should have a committee, but the finer points were never really debated, PJ. As you well know, we had a lot of other stuff on the
I do
table.
know I appeared before this board in January,
Yeah,
and the planning board in February, and presented all of this.
Yeah, present it, but I think we also acknowledge that at the end of the day, it would be the selectmen and the planning board who would have to decide how to best go forward with it. So I think everybody's in agreement on a committee, but having it's perfectly unusual to have a finished document dropped in your lap and say, here it is. I just think that we should get some public input as to how we want it structured, both in terms of mission and makeup. Maybe I don't have the bandwidth.
One of the things this master plan is going to do, it's going to ask for modification, new bylaws, things like that. So whoever's going to be on this implementation committee is going to be working closely with the planning board. And to be able to come to our meetings, to fill us in, to bring us up to speed is probably extremely important as we try to implement everything we want, all the changes we want to do in the town. Obviously, the selectmen have to be in the loop as well, because it's gonna involve money, administration, and things like that. So that's why I think you have to have all three of us involved in it, and all three of us working in public meetings. Once a month, they come to the planning board for a 15-minute update, or, something like that. I understand Paul realizes that we're all busy, we have a lot going on our boards, but if we're gonna get this thing to work, they have to be able to come before us, and we have to be actively involved in it as it goes forward, on both boards.
Thank you. Mr. Mullin?
So I wanted to second what PJ just said, that I feel like his presentation and how they came to the decision, there was plenty of public meetings and debate during the committee, the update steering committee was occurring. So my opinion is almost similar to Paul's, that we should keep it open to citizens at large. I think we've had enough time for public input on how it should be assembled, and I think Paul's assessment or input is, in my personal opinion, the direction we should go. I do feel like they should report to the boards monthly, but it also helps me understand bandwidth in a whole new way, because I wasn't quite clear the first time he said that to me, so thank you for clarifying.
I would like to take the recommendation from the committee. I think 5 members, members at large, I think having them come to the Board of Selectmen and Planning Board meetings on a regular basis once a month would be important, but I think it's important that we push those seats outside of what we're doing and work from them from the positions that we already hold. I think we have a lot of people eager in town to get involved, and I think this is a great opportunity for them.
If it comes to Chair. I agree. I think the point I want to make is that, is it 5 enough? With the amount of work that has to be done, would it be better to have 7 at large? The point being that the amount of work that has to be done with only 5 people, not including us, would we be better off with 2 more?
I think Keith hit it right on the head. Let's see how many people want to do it.
That's
If 12 people want to go, the more,
I think beyond that, if we do get 5 people, and they're great people, and they're eager, and they want to do it, and maybe there's some people that have some continuity to this, or have served in the past, and that kind of thing. If we feel as though we have 5 people that are new, that want to get involved, but they're new, they may need some leadership and guidance, so we could have some ad hoc board members that could help them and give them some guidance, and it might just be early on, where we could be present at meetings and help them out, give them some guidance. Keith, were you going to say something before I open my mouth?
In any event, if you were to decide that you just want at-large members, I think it might be well to appoint some liaisons from both of your boards to make sure that there's, because it's communication. Thing I'd be most concerned about is that there be communication from that committee back to the selectmen and the planning board. So if you're not seating a member, if you ultimately determine that you don't want a sitting member of the board as a member, I think you still have to, and that's, your decision to make, but if you do that, you want to make sure you've got some kind of communication channel with a liaison or something.
Right, okay. I think that's easy enough to do, just from a communication standpoint. Mr. Mullin?
Just to continue the discussion, also in the event that a member might need, in the board's, either board's opinion needed to be removed, how would we go about that? I just want to make sure we cover all these bases before we implement the committee, and then we don't know how to modify
Well,
it.
if we jointly are the appointing authority, then we'd have to convene and open up the
Dialogue.
We'll have to open the dialogue, we'd have to open up an opening, and to the public, to solicit more applicants, and then we'd convene and do an appointment to replace the person, I would assume. As, same as, someone left from another board.
Free non-legal advice on removing board members, the best way to do that is to ask for the resignation. So you don't want to get involved in
Legal Zoom by Keith Burton.
removing members.
Mr. Miller?
Just in closing, a request that whatever you finally decide as far as makeup and the actual charge, if it's still possible that you implement the implementation committee this evening and get that clock ticking so that we can get
So we
the
can post.
applications in. And certainly, we set a goal at the update committee, our sunset clause is June 13th, and that would be the handoff to the implementation committee. so that we don't lose anything in the impetus that we've picked up with the master plan being approved and adopted by the planning board. You know, keep that train running.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair? The note from the planning board specific, coming back to this, members involved with other elected or appointed positions, are we talking about members or that are elected or appointed to other positions at any other town board? Or are we talking about planning and board of selectmen? I mean, think of all the boards and commissions that we have. I think we need to be clear about that before we go forward and ask for applications, because that will control the pool of applicants that we have.
That's a good point. I kind of perceived it as being from our boards, but.
That's how I understood it as well, but.
Others might perceive it differently.
My input would be from all boards and committees, only because, again, the bandwidth, you have a lot on your plate if you sit on any appointed and/or elected board, that your time is limited as it is, and to try to then commit to this master plan committee, the time that this is going to take, this is an active committee that's going to take a lot of time, as Paul was saying. I mean, I don't need to reiterate what he was saying. I think that anybody that sits on any other board in town is going to be limited with their time.
I think there's some credence to that, but I think that if we're gonna be the selection committee, and we see a resume, and it's between candidate A and candidate B, and candidate B is on 3 other boards, and attendance isn't great on those boards, we can make that decision at that point. I would be in favor of restricting the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, and opening up to all the boards, and then let us make the decision as to who gets appointed.
Fair enough?
Can we split the baby a little bit, not to be comprised of more than 3 members who are currently sitting on other elected boards and committees?
So-
Because I think there's value in new blood as well as experience and
I agree with
history.
Okay?
That's a good point.
I agree all over the place. I think the smartest thing for us to do is probably start out with the 5, hope we get 10 or 15 people, put maybe 5 voting members, but it doesn't mean just because you're not on the board, it means you can't show up and have your input. And really, if we get some enthusiastic people, there's nothing saying that we can't turn around and say, you want to go out and do this, and you want to go out and do that. But we get it in a broad spectrum of the community, like you said, some new blood. Well, if the new blood doesn't show up, you get what you get.
Oh, that's true.
So I think, to cut to the chase and get your meetings going, let's just see who shows up. Let's see what we get for applications. Let's go with the basis of perhaps 5. And again, a planning board member can show up at the meetings and sit in for a while.
Yeah.
A selectman can sit in a while. And make the 5 voting ones is probably is a good base. But again, let's see who shows up.
So you understand, so you understand other elected or appointed positions to mean you and us being excluded?
No, I don't think that the planning board has to oversee every step they take and sit, or a selectman, or a finance committee, but I think that they need to have the ability to come to us before than just an advertised meeting and such, and say, this is what we need. I do think it should try and give a report once a month, as in PJ saying, to keep them on task.
Are you okay with this proposal, which would have all the appointees made by the selectmen, not by the planning board?
No, it'd be both.
Well, then, which is it? Either this is the debate, the document that was debated and, and therefore should be accepted as is, or it's open for discussion. I think it should be open for discussion. I want a
thought
lot
we
of.
just had that
Well,
discussion.
we're having it, no, we're having it right now. And I think we should have as many public members as we can that, based on the response we get to invitation to join. And I also think that it's an arbitrary and doomed notion that you're gonna just take those folks and not have people who are direct conduits to the boards, the planning board, selectmen, and FinCom. Otherwise, they're gonna get off in their own track. And, if there's no history with the 2-year process that was very detailed, and we're gonna take 5 people that are completely new to that and say, here you go, implement it, that's,
It's not necessarily completely new.
now,
We could have applications from the
Folks from the steering
implementation
committee.
committee.
It's just odd and arbitrary to say, you know, a select group of people can't be on it because, why? I don't know.
So what do you say?
Well, then in that
So
case,
it should be
you
open.
expand the board. You can take up 2 of 5 seats with, you
Well,
know,
why does it have to be 5 seats?
well, that, and then in that case, we should consider expanding it.
I
But I've served on plenty of boards that have been too small, and I've served on plenty that have been far too big, so.
You're right in both cases.
Well, I think we should, like, let people give their input and see how many, applicants come forward. I think that we should probably have an idea of where we would cap it off, because next thing you know, we'll have 20-something people seated at a table and nothing's gonna get done.
Right, so, Mr. Chair, so what I think we should do is that we're gonna vote to establish the committee, but if we're gonna put out feelers to people and say, we're inviting you to join this committee, we do need to have expectations as to how many people will sit on that committee. I don't think that we might want to give people an idea of how many people we're looking to fill that committee. You know, I'd hate to see 20, 30,
Right.
30 applications, and they're like, oh, you only picked 5 people, why? I think we need to establish an expectation, but my other thought process is too, going along with what Paul mentioned, is if you're already, you know, certain members that are already serving on a committee are already vested in the process, they're already familiar with different things that might be going around town. So part of me feels that we shouldn't totally say we're not going to allow those people to be part of that committee in that process. I think we need to see who applies, but I think there is some need for some guidance for that committee to some extent, with people that maybe are more experienced with different matters that are going on around town. Is that what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly happy with that. I just think we need to open it up, see who's interested, settle on the appropriate number. These limiting things of these can and those can't,
Right.
I don't know,
I mean,
that's kind of
are we
arbitrary.
not
A
talking-
range, you know?
Are we not talking about limiting the applicants, though, to everyone in town except for the
Or
9
someone
people
like-
here plus Rich?
I don't know, is that what it was,
Well,
or was it
I
other
think that's
boards?
what we're trying to ferret out, and if we're restricting it to the 10 of us can't participate as voting members, that doesn't seem overly restrictive to me.
No,
As long as we
let's
could
take the
act in
10
that
people who
box.
were voted by the
Right.
town to oversee this process, not to be involved in it.
No, we could act as ad hoc members, you know.
And
we'd always put
and ultimately, we oversee,
Right.
we're the appointing authority,
Right.
so we oversee it, so.
Well, that again speaks to the secondary issue. We have what is worded here as a draft work plan, which I say this in the absence of any other language would serve as the mission. We need to, I would invite everybody to take a fresh look at that and see whether or not that's something you're comfortable with in terms of mission.
Here's
As
the
to- as to-
diagnosis, once again, I'm sorry, but it says alternative members to be appointed by selectmen and planning board. Let's just say that the picking of the people will be a joint effort between the planning board and the
And what
selectmen.
would
That's
the-
a given.
What's the oversight? Is it also the oversight, planning board and selectmen?
Yes,
Jointly?
I would joint. I think that's, it just, done with
So-
that. The numbers of people, right now, we're looking for the 5 is what we're hoping for.
Two
And 2 alternates, so we're gonna start with, I think, is a smart start.
Okay.
And if we get 50 people applicants for it that are really, and we change it to 7 and 2 and 7 and 3 alternates, so be it. We don't want it to be so big, but, I mean, the entire world runs for, one position and one guy wins it.
So
Just
we,
because we get 30 for 5 spots doesn't mean we don't want 50 for 5 spots.
What does an alternate do?
Hopefully,
full
tens of
voting, full
meetings.
voting authority, if there's not a quorum, they can step in.
Well, where does it say that?
We can establish
We can establish that. What I would ask is, Mr. Bergman, are we allowed to say, committee to be comprised of no fewer than 5 members, no more than 7 members? That way, we kind of put it out there for people.
Sure, and specifically because when you make the appointments, you will be,
Making that
by
determination.
virtue of making those appointments, you'll be determining the size of the committee.
Within that parameter.
I mean, to the extent that it's an advisory committee, which it is, it's not statutory, it's not bylaw. We can make it whatever size we want, we can change the mission whenever and how often as we want.
So why are you being such a pain?
I'm just trying to point that out, Peter. Plus, we're told we have to live by the language that's here, except for the part that didn't give you guys a vote. And I think you should have a vote in it, but, that's a change, that's an amendment, keep that in mind.
I don't know how that snuck through in the first place, but.
Okay.
If I can,
So,
if we make the motion, can we just, since we're just trying to find out how many applicants we're gonna have, get to the point of saying, said committee membership to be determined? Fine. So that way we can get it out there, so people know that we're looking for applicants for this, and we haven't determined the amount yet.
If we're gonna do that, I'd definitely put in no fewer than 5 members.
Okay.
I concur.
Sure, a committee of 3 isn't gonna accomplish
Right,
this.
correct. Any consensus on that?
Sure, I mean, we can change it
Your
at any
point, we
point
can
we
change it
want,
anytime.
whatever.
Right.
Something?
no,
Okay.
if we're good.
So, we good with your motion?
Yeah,
You guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
just correct me if I'm good off. You all set for it?
I'm ready to entertain a motion. Peter, you ready? Let's go.
And if I go off, let me know. I move the Board of Selectmen vote to establish a master plan implementation committee, MPCI, to promote and guide implementation of the Littleton Master Plan 2030. Said committee to be, membership to be determined, but no less than 5 members and
Comprised of?
comprised of no less than 5 members. Do you want to keep the 2 alternates in there?
Yes.
Sure.
And 2 alternate members to be appointed by the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, and invite applications from Littleton residents.
Do we want to put the restriction of the planning board in the, well, are we just agreeing right now that none of us can apply to it? Or do you want to put it in there?
Only as ad hoc members.
That's not what we were just talking about. I don't think we have to do that.
Okay, all right,
On this
all right.
motion here.
All right, leave it alone.
You do that by who you appoint.
All right, so that, we've got a motion on the
or
floor.
don't appoint.
You need to change the motion if you wish to make it so that both planning board and selectmen members can be on the committee also. That's what you want, isn't it?
Only as ad hoc members, so no voting power,
So it hasn't been seconded yet. We've got a motion on the floor.
That
For the Board of
does not,
Selectmen.
that does
It
not.
doesn't say anything about restricting Board of Selectmen or the planning board. It doesn't say anything about ad hoc members.
Membership to be determined, not less than 5 members.
I'll second that for purposes of moving along.
Okay.
We want
All right, so
we don't want it, so the next question
They have to take their own
do we want
motion,
to
right?
allow-
It's not, I don't think we don't have any
no, so,
joint voting authority.
any further discussion?
Change it, we can go ahead with it.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Point out, I also said, we
Aye.
can also set that,
It's unanimous.
Okay.
So this is our starting point.
Yeah.
So we-
And to be determined, to be finalized when
Right,
the
it's
appointments
not-
are.
It's just a
Is there
starting
any,
point.
yeah,
So now we can,
jumping off.
Right, I think the most important point is that it's planning and selectmen are choosing these collaboratively
and overseeing.
and overseeing it.
Join me.
Okay.
I would make the motion for the planning board to accept the same.
Kevin?
Was that a second?
All right.
Second.
I'd like to,
All those in favor? Aye. Apparently, we've agreed.
thank you for your patience.
Very good, thank you. Thank you all.
Ask you to come forward now.
We can go home now?
Thank you, PJ, thank you.
You don't have to,
Steering committee.
You're welcome to come up if you want to pull a chair up and sit at the table, whatever you're most comfortable with.
Have this chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
No,
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience, appreciate it. So the public hearing has been opened, the notice has been read, and assuming you're Mr. Bowles.
Yeah.
So,
Applying for a plastics license. I previously had one, and let it lapse, so I'm trying to get the license back.
okay. Saw the application, everything was in order as far as the application was concerned. Did you get the opinion of public safety?
Oh,
Chief King?
I mean, vehicles have been sold out of there for, for as long as I've been in town, to be honest with you, either 1 or 2. Obviously, there's been an auto body shop there since, as long as I can remember, of some sort or another that always typically had vehicles out in front. I know Jake at one point held, Jake's Auto Body did hold a license at one point a number of years ago to sell some vehicles. We really received no complaints. Matter of fact, Jake Auto Body does the repairs on the cruisers if there's any kind of an issue. So Mr. Bolton is always very receptive if we've gone down when there's been an issue, which, you know, I don't recall of anything being. Nothing's been brought to our direct attention, so we have no objections.
Fire Chief?
No issues.
Thank you. So,
We had
it was
received one
posted, it was
comment.
posted to abutters, and yeah.
Right, we had provided notice to abutters, it was in the newspaper. We got one comment by email today from the Austins at 8 Adams Street, and you've got copies of that. There may be folks in the audience as well, in opinion.
So, is there anybody in the audience that wanted to speak on this? Okay, thank you.
Well, can we ask a couple of,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Austins who said they wouldn't be able to attend here do raise a couple of specific questions. I wonder whether we might just pose them of Mr. Bowles.
Some neighbors, you can have that.
Okay, so that, give you a chance to read that. You'll see the two questions they have there, Mr. Bowles. I'd just be curious to see if you had any response to those. One has to do with lighting, and the other has to do with, well, the safety for, since there's no sidewalking there, which is kind of beyond your...
But that concern is in particular predicated on extended hours.
Right.
The light isn't on after 6 o'clock anyways,
Okay.
except for when towing, the light goes on automatically if a tow truck goes in or out.
Okay.
Which has been the case all along.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a change to.
I think 3
your
years ago,
operation.
they grandfathered the property, and there was an updated drain put in the back.
And you weren't anticipating extending your hours to, for these sale of vehicles, just,
No.
you know, doing your, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, will this change your operation at all? Will there be more cars out front? These are questions I know that I'm going to be asked later on.
I have enough room to put 20 cars out back and 6 cars out front. I just want to put 12 cars, 6 out back, 6 out front.
I guess my question is, does that change anything that you're doing right now?
No.
Yeah, so there's, the planning board had limited you to 20 cars, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I don't,
That was the 2014.
yeah. Any other questions of,
So it's pretty much the same number of cars
Yeah.
that you're dealing with now? And where do they go, I assume they test drive the vehicles, where do they usually go?
When I had the other license, I couldn't drive up Adams Street, I had to go out. That was the stipulation on the last license.
Okay.
No flags, no banners, no,
squiggly guys?
Right, right.
nobody out there shaking. That's what they asked for.
Right, right.
Yeah.
No, so that's the only thing that I would add is maybe two.
That's the only thing, no test drives up Adams Street.
Perfect. That was my only
We don't.
concern.
It's a good concern.
The last license was about 10 years ago.
Okay. But those are wonderful ideas you just suggested. I know that's the
Well,
history of that.
That was on the other license, and I
Right.
figured it'd be on this one too. All I was doing was trying to renew it, basically.
Okay. We don't have a copy of that here, but you wouldn't mind adhering to similar stipulations?
Oh,
again?
absolutely. That doesn't bother me one bit. I don't have to, they can go out two-way, it doesn't.
Right, in terms of the signage too.
Just my regular Jake's Auto Body
Right,
sign
no,
that'll be
right,
out
cool.
there. I might just put in sales
Right.
on the sign, that's about it.
Feels all these questions have been answered for the resident? I mean, obviously, you're in that neighborhood already, so.
Oh, yeah, I've been there
folks-
18 years.
I would imagine, since everybody was notified, if there were issues up to this point, either the public safety
never had
folks in the
any
room,
complaints.
or one of the residents, aside from this letter, just with concerns for, mostly for young children,
Yeah,
you know, they'd be here speaking against this. I would
Right.
assume, I would hope if there were issues and concerns, that folks would come out and advocate for themselves.
And I think it's important to note that this letter doesn't express issues. just-
Opposition, right.
Yeah, just ask questions.
Right. All right, unless, do you have more questions?
No, I think we just need to, close the hearing and then take a vote on the motion. So I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous?
You want to take, if you want to add in that language, Joe, about restriction, are you the designated reader of motions now?
No, you can do it.
I'll move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, subsection 58, 59, to approve the application of John A. Bowles, doing business as Jake's Auto Body, 1 Adam Street, for a Class 2 license to buy, sell, exchange, or assemble secondhand motor vehicles or parts thereof at 1 Adam Street, Littleton, subject to the terms and conditions of the last license that was in place. Does that sound almost legal? Almost.
sounds good to me.
None of those squiggly guys? All right. Stipulate that.
It is on TV, isn't it?
Can we get a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thanks, good luck.
Thank you.
Pick up the license anytime.
As long as you drop a check off.
I'll definitely do that, thank you.
Not to us.
Thank you. Right, to be clear. Cash only if here.
Thanks, Paul. Just what we need. All right. So, 6A, Town Administrator, Assistant Town Administrator. Let's see, we start off with the smart sewer. Mr. Bergman.
Yes, this is a procedural motion now that we have the supplemental funds for Phase 2 of the sewer project, in order that we can issue a notice to proceed to Weston and Sampson for both phases. We ask that you amend your prior vote from 2 weeks ago to incorporate this total amount. So,
All right, so it's pretty much procedural, so I don't think you anticipate any discussion?
None here.
The only discussion I'd add is, expect a memo from me that I'd kind of like us to consider a advisory committee. And there's enough people out there that still have doubts, and I'd like to, even as we, we have people engaged, we've had the town vote affirmatively on it twice. There's still a lot of public, there should still be a lot of public input, and that's the commitment we made, and, I'll flesh that out. Although I'll welcome public input on how it should be structured, members, et
You
cetera.
could work with planning board to
Yeah,
implement that.
right.
So on this motion, do you want to put in there?
No, just let you know. I mean, I don't think that affects this at all.
Okay.
You all set?
I'm ready.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to May 1st, 2017, Special Town Meeting, Article 5A, to amend its vote of April 24th, 2017, relative to the contract for professional engineering services for the preliminary design of smart sewer project for Littleton Common with Weston and Sampson Engineers Incorporated of Peabody, Mass., and to approve the scopes of work for both Phase 1 at $252,000 and Phase 2 at $200,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. 6B.
Yeah, I was going to say just that we also included a recap of the articles
The
that
articles,
have passed,
yes,
just so you know what we're working on, the various bylaw amendments. They have to get submitted to the Attorney General for approval, that we will have, that there are some deeds that the board will be voting to approve on the land acquisitions, that will come in due course, and we will report back to you on the various projects that we approved.
And I note that the closing on the Williams property is set for August 4th. Is that-
Yeah, the purchase and sales agreement has that as the date. It can be amended by the parties. The only thing that might cause it to be amended is if we're awarded a grant and there's any condition that we need to comply with prior to closing. So typically, And that really depends on how long does it take the funding agency to actually notify us that we've got the grant, because we're not allowed to close on a property. If we're awarded a grant, we have to wait for their permission and the final grant award.
If we close, we lose that funding.
Right, and we anticipate learning by the end of this month whether we're still in the running or not. There's a determination made initially by the state, which is subject to federal approval since it's federal funding, so stay tuned.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Ansaldi, I think you're up, 6B,
Yes.
right?
Yes. A few things going on, as you stole my thunder earlier by talking about alumni.
Sorry.
That's all right, I'll let that go. So as the chairman has mentioned earlier, the alumni project has started. It actually rolled out on Friday. We thought it was gonna be today, but they showed up on Friday, so it was very busy. But they did start, and expected really the big digging to start, I think the 15th, so we had to wait for some identifying some fiber lines and water lines that go through there, so Dig Safe was notified, which Wednesday is the first time that they can actually dig there, so, but they're expecting the 15th to really start being a very active site. A lot of precautions that went in, the safety plan was approved by the superintendent, went back and forth, everybody's Cory checked up there, everybody has IDs that are issued by the school department, so they're constantly, as new workers are coming onto the site, they check in with the contractor who notifies me, who I work with the superintendent's office to make sure that we know exactly who's up there and that they've been checked. The good thing is, we're gonna have a groundbreaking for that project on this Saturday at 9 o'clock at Alumni. So we welcome everybody to well. I think it's an exciting time for the community. Any questions with regards to alumni?
Bring your own shovel, or?
I have 10 coming, but if we have more than 10, we'll have to.
You'll have to share.
You have to share, yeah. Was there a preference with gold or silver? Or shovels?
This is a silver.
He's relatively new.
Yes.
Whatever's cheaper.
Okay, great.
Plastic. Get
Order,
something
yeah,
tomorrow,
order the
Get some loaners?
All right, with Complete Streets, only update here, we're gonna, the groundbreaking is also gonna be in conjunction with alumni, so that's gonna happen right after alumni, same location. Again, it's 9 o'clock on May 13th at 55 Russell Street. The only other thing that Chris brought to our attention is a tentative schedule that on May 19th, the pre-construction meeting will be happening with the June 1st mobilization start on that construction site. On July 13th, there'll be demobilization, substantial completion, punch list, and on September 1st, the contract, we hope, will be completed.
Nice. That'd be great to get sidewalks down there.
Yeah. Just in time for school year.
Right, that's great.
Okay, and the third thing, the comprehensive rec fields needs assessment. The committee did meet. There was two bidders on that project. Gale Associate was selected as the vendor of choice by the committee. That was awarded, that was decided on May 3rd. And town council right now is preparing a contract, working with Gale, and PRCE will be voting tomorrow night to award that contract to Gale with a not to exceed $48,000 price tag on that.
Okay, good. That'd be good. Good to get that back.
Yes.
What's the turnaround time on that? Do we know
On
when we might be able to expect preliminary
Deliverable?
findings?
Did you get anything from that?
I didn't get a sense on that.
I didn't attend the meeting, so I don't know.
Yeah, once they negotiate the dollar amount and go through the scope, hope they'll come back and give you an idea of when that will be delivered.
Did they make any comments about whether it's gonna be John or Maggie, the folks that were very involved? Kind of know the lay of the land here in town with having been so involved with the Alumni Field project, or?
No,
No.
not that I saw.
All right, 'cause I know that they did take a look at other properties in
They
town,
did.
and so
Right.
it'd be good if we had some continuity there.
I mean,
Sure thing.
is that something that we would want to specify in the contract? I mean, if we haven't written the contract yet, and
It might be worth, yeah, talking to John about,
Sure.
because he does, well, I know he's doing a project in Groton as well, so he's coming from Weymouth to Groton, if he can kill two birds with one stone, there might be some opportunity, negotiations there.
I'll have that conversation with Alicia to have with
With
John
Gail?
too. Yeah, let's negotiate that contract and we'll see.
It's good input.
it hopefully gets them off the ground a little faster.
Well, that's exactly my point. They know what we have. They know what our inventory is.
They do.
They looked at it.
And if they're waiting on a contract, the fairly minor points like that can be negotiated.
And we have negotiated a contract with them already.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, a few, because they've done stuff in this building, they've
That's right.
track with us, so that's
They
good.
do have a good track record with us. So, at anybody else.
Nicely done.
Just had no fun there. Next.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Anthony. All right, sounds good. Next up is the personnel bylaw. Right? Or personnel. Director of Veteran Services, we took care of.
Right.
So we're on to 7D, which is deputies.
Just by way of background, tonight you have management contract, you have a total of 6 management contracts in this item and the next. That under the state statute, chapter 41-108N, that a board of selectmen can have a contract with the town administrator and with the town accountant, but not with the assistant town administrator. We got to work on that, but, and under chapter 41-108O,
Still on parole.
the selectmen can have contracts with the police chief and the fire chief, but not the deputies. So, the way we've navigated these waters is to have, in the case of the deputies, to have the Board of Selectmen annually approve a one-year essentially, it's we call it a contract, it's really a memorandum of understanding, which sets forth their terms and conditions. We amend it each year to include, to reflect a step raise for them effective July 1st, conditional upon satisfactory performance review, and to use the dollar numbers from the town meeting, from the annual town meeting that has just passed. So in the case of all 6 of the contracts you see tonight, that the intent is to adjust the dollar figures that are in the existing contracts to reflect the salary schedules that were just adopted. For non-union bylaw employees, such as the assistant town administrator or the DPW director and all the other non-union bylaw employees, they automatically follow the Schedule A numbers by virtue of the town meeting vote. It's for those of us who have a written contract that refers to specific numbers, those numbers in the board's practice have gotten adjusted each year to reflect what the town meeting has just voted. And those numbers as well, that town meeting adopted, have reflected the numbers that are in the collective bargaining agreements with our 4 unions as well. So in the case of the 2 deputies, that this instant motion is to extend their contracts for a year. And the form of the contracts includes the dollar amounts that were just approved by town meeting. The money is, as is budgeted by town meeting as well.
You guys want to hang with us for another year? You guys want to keep them for another year? All right. So, more or less formality?
I'd call it routine, but we
Any discussion,
We're on
conversation?
we're on tender hooks, so.
Yeah. Any discussion? No?
No, all set?
Paul, you good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to authorize execution of contract extensions with Deputy Police Chief Jeff Patterson and Deputy Fire Chief Tom Clancy, both for July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Thank you, Deputy.
Good deal. So, on to management employee contracts and amendments. This is one we have to talk about.
Still excludes me, by the way.
Yeah. We just negotiated your contract, didn't we? Sort of.
Well, it's not a contract, it's we made him an offer he couldn't refuse.
Oh, boy. All right, Paulie, what do you got?
This is, these are the dollar amount adjustments to the existing management contracts. They don't extend the term, that whatever the terms are continue to be in place. But where the existing numbers reflect the salary schedule for fiscal 2017, these adjustments would instead increase the numbers to the 2018 figures for the steps that we will all be going to on July 1st, subject to performance review.
Life is good on Happy Island.
Or it's at least satisfactory.
So are you saying you don't have any comments, Gilligan?
It's up to you, Skipper.
A millionaire and his wife.
That would make you Mr. Howell, wouldn't it?
All right, enough with that. You want a motion then, Mr. Chairman?
Is there any discussion? You guys saying what? Okay.
Move that the Board of Selectmen vote to amend the existing management employee contracts with the Town Administrator Keith Bergman, Director of Finance and Budget, Town Accountant Bonnie Holston, Police Chief Matthew King, and Fire Chief Scott Wazinski to implement effective July 1st, 2017, FY 2018 amendments to the classification and compensation plan as approved by the May 1st, 2017 annual town meeting at the equivalent grade and step dollar amounts. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I will need signatures from
All
quite a
right,
bit
so
tonight.
when we do adjourn, folks, just make sure we put some ink on the contracts. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you very much to all of you. All right, so moving right along to other business. So all we have under other business at this point is minutes approval. Actually, before we go to minutes approval, Chase, you mentioned something about purchase and sale going on to August for the Williams property. And I just want to just make the comment, I probably should have done it during member updates and member input. The Cooper property closed on Wednesday, last Wednesday?
Yes, and that was transferred from the Cooper
Trust.
irrevocable trust to M&M Realty. That's step one. Recorded with that deed was the host community agreement that the Board of Selectmen had signed. So that is meant to condition the terms of the deed. In the future, we'll be coming forward to the Board of Selectmen I'd say in the coming weeks, and it's something that we ought to think about in time for a November town meeting. Let me just say that as part of the host community agreement and as part of the regulatory review being done by the planning board, there will be acreage from Cooper Farm that is deeded to the town.
Right.
Accepting those acres requires a vote of town meeting because because we're only able to accept land absent a vote of town meeting if it's strictly and only for conservation purposes. In that case, the Conservation Commission can accept the deed subject to the selectmen's approval. If there's anything else, any other uses going on, if it's conservation, agriculture, active recreation, housing, the sorts of things that are envisioned in the the Cooper Farm host community agreement, those uses required a town meeting vote to approve the deed. Under the Cooper Farm, and so some of the things at issue that the Board of Selectmen will need to be discussing, those community agreement allows a menu of uses, but it doesn't specify which uses. That, say for the 9 acres along a Great Road, that you could, the host community agreement allows those, for those two so-called open space parcels, those can be used for open space or agriculture or recreation. At some point, someone's going to have to decide what the use is, and you might want to engage in a public process to determine what that is. Also, right in the middle of those two, you've got the house. And there, under the HCA, you have a number of things you can do with it. You can develop it as affordable housing. You can, in the town's name, you can transfer it to the housing authority. You can relocate the house. You can demolish the house. And there's and so that will need to be something that is considered. And it seems to me that since you'll need to be going to town meeting at some point to accept the deed, it would be well to be able to tell town meeting that what the specific use is, and the way to do that, I think, would be to engage in some kind of a public process where there's community input, and so by the time you're in front of the voters at town meeting to accept the deed, that there's some general understanding of what the use of the property is going to be, and that everyone's okay with that.
Is the house being transferred at the same time that the property is being transferred, or is the developer utilizing the house as a office
Well,
for a period of time? I thought I understood that house to not be transferring immediately.
The timing is not necessarily the same, actually last Wednesday, we had some inquiry from the buyer and seller about transferring the open space parcels at least to the town right away, and town council advised them, well, you couldn't do it Wednesday because we don't have an authorizing vote of town meeting yet, but we can get clarity. I've heard as well that the house would be a place where sales are taking place for the facility, but that hasn't been finalized with us.
I just wanted to bring that up because I think it was an important update to get to us. And, we negotiated in good faith on getting that host community agreement, and we got everything that we could. So, all right, minutes approval. So, guessing there's three of us that this made any sense to.
I have with some chagrin note that on his way out the door that Clancy did not mention my name at all in these minutes. Nonetheless, I find them an accurate representation of the meeting.
No, you were mentioned on the minutes approval from the previous meeting.
Yeah, right, thank you. But I would just say the only change I would make is to include Melissa's PowerPoint presentation as part of the meeting minutes, since that was an important part of the meeting.
That's a good
The
one.
sewer proposal.
Okay.
Those can be posted along with them.
So I would move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve the meeting minutes of April 24th, 2017, with the noted enclosure of the PowerPoint presentation.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. So next up, we do have an executive session. I don't believe we have any intent to come back into open session. Anybody? No? Mr. Bergman? No need to come back? All right,
Not
so,
ever.
pardon me?
No, we can go home after.
Adjourn?
Let's go home.
All right, so entertain a motion on item number 9 with no intent of returning to open session.
It's going to be a roll call vote, too.
Correct. Thank you.
Move the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A2, to go into executive session for the purpose of conducting strategy sessions and contract negotiations with non-union personnel, police chief, and not to reconvene in open session thereafter.
It's been moved.
Second.
Seconded. It is a roll call vote. Mr. Glavy?
Aye.
Ms. Napoli?
Aye.
Mr. Kirby?
Aye.
Mr. Knox?
Aye.
The chair's in favor. All right, so it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You good, Matt? Good yourself?